Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome today to my review of a brand new watch from a brand new watch brand owned by friend of the channel, Glynn Reynolds. You may have heard me mention his name more than once over the years. Glynn is a bit of a whiz with Photoshop and I've asked him to do various jobs for me over the years with, I think, great results. For example, he helped me fix the Casio and the Bulova Aerojet. So when he told me he was designing his first microbrand watch, I was excited to see what he came up with. No pop-up today, no siren, this is not a sponsored video. Glynn sent me one of his prototypes on loan and I'll be sending it back after the review. Now, Glynn is from Mansfield in the UK, a historic market town of around 100,000 people, according to Google, which sits just north of Sherwood Forest. Now, if that name sounds familiar, Sherwood Forest was the home of the legendary Robin Hood, the infamous outlaw who stole from the rich to give to the poor. And Glynn has paid tribute both to Robin Hood and his forest hideout in this, his first watch. Unfortunately, he's not giving them out for free to the poor. He is charging for them. This one goes live on Kickstarter on the 12th of February. I will of course leave links to Sherwood's website and the Kickstarter campaign in the description of this video. And just like the man himself, Glynn's watch looks pretty good in green. Let's flip the camera and get into it. Okay, I cannot show you the packaging because he's still working on the packaging. I mean, it's fun for 2 minutes and then it goes in the cupboard anyway, right? I've no doubt there will be more details about that in the Kickstarter campaign. There will also be details in there about the price. Now, the super early birds on these are 325 Great British pounds. That is just under 400 US dollars. And for once, I'm nice and early with this review, so if you are keen on one of these, you'll be able to pick it up for that price, no problem at all. So what do you get for your cash? Well, you get a really interesting design, a unique watch, that's for sure. These are available in blue, black or green. Personally, I think if you're going to buy something referencing Sherwood Forest, then green is surely the most appropriate of the colours, so I'm glad he sent me this one for review. So it's called the Commander, apparently a reference there to Commander James Bond. Glynn wanted to design a dress diver that would be as at home at the beach as it was at the Baccarat table. As such, there is plenty of high polish on display with this one on both the centre links of the bracelet and also the sides of the case. Talking of the case, do you want to guess the size of this one? Have a look at the dial, have a look at the bezel and tell me your best guess at its diameter dimension. Personally, I think it looks like a 42, but in fact it's only a 40, and that's because he got his manufacturer to make a super slim 3mm bezel insert. What that does, it really opens up the dial, allowing for a lot more space on it, a lot more room to breathe therefore. Also means you can use an angled chapter ring, bringing depth to the watch as well. A very neat trick from a man who has a background in graphic design. So 40mm in diameter then, only 12.5mm thick because this watch uses a Miyota 9000 series. Lug to lug is a very wearable 47.4 with 20mm lug width down to 18, then back up to 21 for a fairly chunky clasp. Sized up for my 7-inch wrist, it weighs in at 148 grams, hitting that stainless steel sports watch sweet spot right in the bullseye. As noted, the side of the case is high polished 316L stainless steel, the upper lug surfaces are brushed, the crown is unguarded and 6mm in diameter. Sapphire crystal is double domed and features plenty of AR undercoating. The bracelet reminds me a lot of the one on the Tissot Sea Star. It's a flat 5-linker with 3 polished center links and 2 brushed outer links. The links are solid, the end links are solid, and it will be held together by screws for production units. Apparently the end links will also line up better with the case as well, but it's not something I was going to complain about today anyway. The clasp is a dress diver style with a brushed upper surface, high polished edges, double pushers, but no security fold over. 3 holes of micro adjust. It is nice and chunky though and helps keep the watch balanced on wrist. The case back features another nod to Sherwood Forest. It features Britain's biggest oak tree. Well, I never. Appropriately named Major Oak. The story goes that Robin Hood used to camp beneath its branches. Behind that tree is a Miyota 9039, the no-date specific version of the 9000 series, so 24 joule, hand winding and roughly 40 hours of power reserve when fully charged. I'm sure you've noticed already there is a strong sunburst effect from this green dial, and from the looks of the photos it's the same effect used on both blue and black models. Now the applied indices follow a Rolex style pattern of circles and rectangles. until you get to the 12, that is. It's a kind of heraldic shield on there, big but not ridiculously big, and it's the same symbol that features on the crown more or less. Hands are high polished segmented swords with a unique second-hand design, but I'm sure you've already spotted that one. It's got a green arrowhead tip, quite literally, and it's a high-polished feathered counterbalance, meaning the whole thing resembles an arrow. Glynn clearly hasn't just picked this one out of the catalogue. I'm not sure the catalogue has many literal arrow second hands there. Again, so much of himself and his local area evidenced in the design of the commander. Similarly, the arrow features again in the brand logo. It is a big brand logo, I'll admit, but the small bezel insert allows the dial enough space to accommodate it, I think. Automatic is printed beneath the pinion in a shade of green that picks out that arrowhead, and it's nice to see the words British design either side of the baton at 6. The bezel insert is super slim, and it also has unusual markings. No numerals, just small squares at the 5 and 4 continuous hash marks from 0 around to 20. Now, Glynn's suggestion, as you will see reflected in every one of his press shots, is that you line up the bezel to look symmetrical with 2 of those marks either side of the shield at 12. If you ever feel the need to use the bezel for timing something, you realign it to the normal position. How do you feel about that? I think it might be a bit of an ask to get people to arrange their bezels in a way they're not used to just because you say so. I see his point though. His suggestion does retain symmetry, even if it is somewhat unintuitive. It's a 120 click dive style bezel regardless, by the way, and it feels rock solid. The loom is also rock solid. I know where Glynn is getting these made, and it's a very capable manufacturer that he has engaged with, known for the quality of their output, including loom. C3 Superluminova and a ton of it, as you can see. This is a really good result, especially from a prototype. This will hold its own after dark with anything under $500, no worries. But I think the Sherwood's main strength is actually on wrist. It wears really nicely indeed. It's slim, it's well balanced thanks to that large clasp and complex bracelet, and it has a lot of presence thanks to the ceramic, the sunburst, and that big dial opening. As I said, I think it looks one size above what it actually is. The lug length is spot on, and those 2 protruding center links of the end link angle down nicely enough, helping the bracelet contour on wrist. That's the pocket shot to finish. I even wore some green shorts to continue the forest theme. And that forest theme brings me neatly onto the moans and niggles section. Glynn may be a friend of the channel, but nothing escapes the moans and niggles section. He's well aware there are a few QC issues with this prototype. The bezel loom is a little rough, bit of dust here and there, for example. He'll be working closely with that manufacturer to ensure that production units have an improved QC standard. And then there is the branding. Branding is the hardest thing for new companies to get right, I think. It's easy to undercook the branding, leaving a watch looking anonymous and forgettable, but it's also easy to overcook the branding, use too much and just not get it quite right. I think Glynn has veered into this slightly over-branded area. Sure, I get that he wants to associate the brand with his home region, and Sherwood is a good strong name, immediately for most Britons anyway, brings an association with Robin Hood. But the literal arrow second hand might be a bit twee for some, and the tree on the back a bit obvious for others. The shield at the index at 12 looks pretty good, but it's actually a different shape and size from the shield used on the crown. It would be good if they could have them matching either way for production units. And that is one big old brand name on the clasp. I can't help but think that his decision to have the arrow piercing the D has necessitated some pretty large gaps between letters in an attempt to keep it balanced. Similarly, that means that an 8-letter word takes up a lot of space on the dial. And then there's the commander thing with the oblique reference to James Bond. I'm not sure it needed that. I'm not suggesting he should have called it the Maid Marian, but maybe sticking with the Sherwood / Robin Hood theme would have been better for this first model than introducing a second unrelated element to the branding. But the branding doesn't matter nearly as much when you get one of these on wrist. It's a really sweet wearing watch. Loads of presents for a 40-20. The green does look very nice. I'm sure the other colours will also benefit from that sunburst effect. And it's so good to see one of Glynn's own creations after him helping me modify a number of other people's creations over the years. He's certainly done it his way. He's not homaging anything here, and I think he deserves plenty of respect for that. So there you have it. I wish Glynn and Sherwood all the best. Don't forget the links in the description. The campaign goes live on the 12th. If you don't fancy this one but you're hankering for something else green, why not click here or here for your next video. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you again in a future video.